Welcome to Delta History, where the battlefield speaks with raw truth and the fog of war is cut open by the sharp edge of reality. Tonight, we bring you not just another account of fighting, but a story of precision, destruction, and the terrifying consequences of modern artillery unleashed on an unsuspecting enemy. It is the story of how Ukraine's HIMARS launchers, the US-made high-mobility artillery rocket systems, weapons designed for accuracy and speed, unleashed a storm of firepower so devastating that it shattered a massive Russian convoy deep inside the war zone, leaving nothing but ruins, flames, and echoes of chaos. This isn't just a battle account told through cold numbers or statistics. It is a lesson in how technology, intelligence, and timing can decide the fate of thousands of soldiers, the survival of entire units, and the momentum of a front line that seemed unshakable only moments before, but crumbled in minutes under relentless precision fire. Introduction to HIMARS. Before we step onto the battlefield and witness the strike, we must understand the weapon that made it possible. HIMARS is more than just another rocket launcher. It is the embodiment of modern precision warfare. Mounted on a highly mobile wheeled chassis, the system combines speed, agility, and unmatched firepower. It can reposition in minutes, deploy with little warning, launch its rockets with devastating accuracy, and then disappear before the enemy even knows where it stood. Each pod of rockets can be reloaded swiftly, making it a weapon of constant pressure. Its rockets are GPS-guided, capable of striking with pinpoint precision, sometimes within just 2 meters of the target, an almost surgical level of accuracy in the chaos of war. In modern warfare, accuracy is no longer a luxury, it is everything. And in this battle, accuracy would be the dividing line between a Russian advance and a Russian catastrophe, between a moving spearhead and a smoldering graveyard of machines. The convoy moves. The morning was cold and gray, the sky covered in low clouds that trapped the smoke of distant battles. The air was heavy, filled with the bitter scent of diesel fumes and the lingering stench of gunpowder drifting from earlier skirmishes. Down a narrow, broken road, a massive Russian convoy pushed forward like an unstoppable steel serpent. Stretching for kilometers, it consisted of dozens upon dozens of armored vehicles moving in formation. Hulking tanks with their turrets facing forward, infantry fighting vehicles rumbling alongside, fuel carriers groaning under the weight of volatile cargo, ammunition trucks packed to the brim, mobile command posts bristling with antennas, and supply transports carrying everything from rations to spare parts. Inside those vehicles, Russian soldiers felt confident. Their commanders had promised them that this was the push that would break Ukrainian lines, that sheer numbers would crush resistance. They believed the road ahead was theirs to take, their overwhelming firepower unstoppable. Engines roared like thunder rolling across the plains, tracks clattered against shattered asphalt, and the ground itself trembled under the weight of steel. But to the trained eyes of Ukrainian reconnaissance teams watching from a distance, this was not the image of unstoppable power. It was the image of a perfect target, long, exposed, slow-moving, predictable, and vulnerable. The spotters in the sky. High above the convoy, Ukrainian reconnaissance drones circled silently, invisible specks against the gray clouds. Their cameras never blinked, recording every movement, every turn, every brief stop the vehicles made to regroup. In hidden command centers miles away, Ukrainian operators studied the live feed. They zoomed in on vehicles, counting them one by one, their voices calm and methodical despite the scale of what they were witnessing. Truck, fuel carrier, armored vehicle, another tank, convoy length, over 4 kilometers. Every piece of information was relayed instantly and encrypted across secure channels to the HIMARS batteries lying in wait, concealed beneath camouflage nets, trees, and folds of terrain. The HIMARS crews sat in tense silence, staring at their digital screens, knowing they would soon be called upon to deliver destruction unlike anything the convoy could imagine. They waited for one word: fire, because patience was everything. The convoy had to be far enough inside the kill zone, clustered tightly enough together, and committed deeply enough to the road that there would be no chance of escape once the rockets were unleashed. The fire mission begins. The moment finally arrived. Target grids locked, coordinates confirmed. The fire mission was approved. Inside the HIMARS launchers, soldiers moved quickly. Pods of guided rockets were already in place, but final checks had to be precise. The crew leader read out the target coordinates aloud, his voice steady, every syllable carrying the weight of destruction. Inside the launcher's cabin, the digital display confirmed the numbers. Coordinates of death. Target locked, ready to fire. The command was given without hesitation. The launcher roared, and with a deafening blast, the first rockets screamed into the sky, leaving behind fiery trails that tore across the horizon. They climbed higher and higher, their speed making them nearly invisible as they curved in a deadly arc, vanishing into the clouds. The silence of the surrounding fields was broken, shattered by the realization that somewhere ahead, death was racing toward the Russian convoy at unstoppable speed. First impact. The convoy never saw it coming. The first rocket struck the center of the formation. The explosion was monstrous, tearing through trucks in an instant and sending molten shrapnel ripping through steel and flesh. A fuel carrier ignited, erupting in a colossal fireball that engulfed everything nearby in an inferno of fire and smoke. The shockwave rolled across the landscape, rattling windows in villages miles away and knocking men to the ground. Russian soldiers froze in disbelief. For a heartbeat, no one moved. Then panic erupted. Engines revved wildly as drivers tried to swerve off the narrow road. Men leapt from vehicles, shouting frantic orders, but their voices were drowned by the roar of burning fuel and secondary explosions. Before they could regroup, a second salvo of rockets arrived. The sky lit up again, and then the road was swallowed in fresh waves of fire and thunder. Total destruction unleashed. The destruction came in relentless waves. Every few seconds, another rocket found its target. Ammunition trucks were the next to be struck. Their detonations were so violent that tanks nearby were hurled onto their sides, their turrets blown clean off. The blasts ripped through the formation, setting off chain reactions of explosions that spread faster than men could run. The convoy disintegrated into chaos. Trucks burned furiously, fuel spilled into rivers of fire across the road, and soldiers stumbled blindly through smoke, coughing, screaming, and running without direction. Drone footage later revealed the scale of the horror. Entire stretches of the column swallowed in fire, vehicles twisted into unrecognizable shapes. The narrow road turned into a furnace of steel and ash. Those who survived the first strikes had no chance to regroup. Each time men tried to form defensive lines or rally around vehicles, fresh rockets fell with surgical precision, tearing them apart before they could even lift their weapons. The road that had promised Russian advance was now transformed into a graveyard of broken machines and burning metal. As the last echoes of explosions faded and silence slowly returned to the battlefield, the scene that remained was one of unimaginable devastation. The narrow road, once alive with the roar of engines and the confidence of advancing troops, had been transformed into a wasteland of fire and ruin. Twisted steel lay scattered across blackened craters, fuel burned in rivers of flame, and the shattered remains of what had been a proud convoy smoldered under the gray sky. For the soldiers who witnessed it, both Ukrainian and Russian, the memory of this strike would be etched into their minds forever. For those inside the convoy, it was a nightmare that came without warning. Death delivered from miles away, precise and unstoppable. For Ukrainian troops watching from hidden positions, it was a moment of awe, proof that patience, coordination, and modern firepower could crush even the mightiest of armored columns. But beyond the battlefield, the lesson was far greater. Modern warfare is no longer decided by numbers alone. It is not simply about who has more tanks, more soldiers, or longer convoys. Today, wars are decided by intelligence, by speed, and above all, by precision. A single weapon system, guided by drones and spotters, had turned what should have been an overwhelming Russian advance into a catastrophic defeat in less than an hour. HIMARS had proven itself not just as a weapon, but as a symbol, a reminder that no army, no matter how large, is safe if it underestimates the power of precision strikes. The convoy's destruction sent shockwaves far beyond the battlefield. It weakened morale, disrupted supply chains, and reminded commanders everywhere that the old rules of war had been rewritten. For historians and future generations, this moment will stand as an example of how strategy, patience, and advanced weaponry can change the course of a war. And for the soldiers who fought there, it will remain a memory of fire, steel, and survival. A chapter of history written not with words, but with explosions across the sky. This was not simply the destruction of a convoy. It was the story of technology versus tradition, of precision against power, of brains over brute force. And in the end, it was a story of how a single strike can shift the momentum of an entire front. Thank you for watching Delta History, where the battlefield speaks and the truth cuts through the fog of war. Stay with us for more untold stories from the front lines, where every strike carries not just destruction, but history itself.